So just a short drive from London, Breckland has miles of forest walks, medieval ruins, and rich history, family fun, big skies, big blue skies, and breathtaking countryside that even Hyacinth Bouquet would want to drive around in, you know.
Oh, Richard,
yes,
the pedestrian.
So Glynn Burrows, who is a family history expert and owner of Norfolk-Tours-UK, is joining us here on Big Blend Radio Champagne Sunday Show today to talk about beautiful Breckland. And you can see his article coming out in the April through June issue of Parks and Travel magazine, but it's also up on the website now. So just type in nationalparktraveling.com. Even better, go see Glynn over the pond. Go to norfolk-tours.co.uk, and you can also learn about Breckland. Go to the website, brand new website. Visit breckland.org.uk. Welcome back, Glynn. How are you?
Hi, I'm good, thanks. Yeah, excellent.
Hey.
I've just had a cuddle with my new granddaughter, so I'm all lovely and cuddly.
Oh,
Cool.
we like that. We like that. Now,
Yeah.
listen, we get to do our champagne toast early. We started your segment with the champagne toast music because I think we should start with a toast. And I think the first one is, it's your birthday that just passed by. You
week.
had the best cheese scone that I've ever seen in my life.
I know. Wasn't I lucky?
My gosh, they made it into the numbers of his years. How about that?
Yeah,
that's
no,
cool.
they didn't. Zoe did, my daughter-in-law.
Really?
She baked it. She baked it and took it to the restaurant for them to bring out all covered in candles for me.
Wow.
Oh, cool.
See, other people do cake. Glynn goes for cheese scones. So,
blame him.
now did it pass Diane's test? Because now that's important.
Oh, yes. Yes, it was lovely. Yeah, absolutely lovely. I did actually share it with people as well, so that, that's not normal for me. I don't normally share my cheese scones with anybody, but I had to for that one.
Well, everybody, this is your Norfolk tour guide.
Yes.
Don't. He's not going to give you a scone, but he'll take you to a place where you can have scones. But just watch him, because like as soon as you turn your head,
it's going off your plate.
It's going in his pocket.
Yeah, but don't worry. I normally allow my guests to have their own scones. They don't have to share mine.
There you go.
Okay, so
that's a solution.
He's polite. He's polite. Now, Glynn, what are you toasting to today?
Well, I think the interesting thing that I'm talking about today is Breckland, and there is so much going on in this area of Norfolk that it's a bit difficult to toast to a thing rather than a person. But I think I would like to toast to Mother Nature, because she really does make this area so gorgeous. There's everything. There's some beautiful little rivers. There are some lovely forests. There's some beautiful parkland. There's lovely gardens. And this is all down to Mother Nature. So, I think I'm going to toast Mother Nature.
Cool.
Oh,
we like that.
It's World Wildlife Day today, too, so we got to toast to Mother Nature on that. Nancy, what are you toasting to?
I'm toasting to the world's first national forest.
Ah.
How about that? It's
Where?
also the United States' first national forest, Shoshone National Forest in Wyoming. And that was established March 3rd, 1891. It's a first.
Wow.
Hey.
How about that?
Oh, so Glynn, okay, you have a big forest, too.
We do. A very big forest.
I looked at it today on Google Maps. I drove there.
Oh, did you? Good.
Yes, you can drive there, but I was on the wrong side of the street. Halfway down, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Different country.
You're on the wrong side. Doesn't help.
Yeah. It's my new hobby. I drive everywhere in Google. I go to people's homes, pull up in their driveway, turn around.
Yeah. And everybody, our Love Your Parks tour, this is not how it's happening. Priscilla the sock monkey is driving. But this is so, how big is it?
20,000 hectares.
Wow. And from
it's big.
What I was looking at in your photos, the website, by the way, everyone, visit breckland.org. It looks so green and pastoral, and Hyacinth Bouquet would like driving around there, huh?
She would. I think anybody would enjoy visiting this area of Norfolk because, well, it's Norfolk and Suffolk although I'm in Norfolk, the Breckland area sort of does go into Suffolk as well, which is our neighbouring county. But it's so lovely because you've got something, for everybody. You've got beautiful forests, as I've said. You've got lovely open sort of, really rough ground, which is really great for some of the bird species that people love to see. Lots of small, really ancient parkland and little pieces of woodland. You've got some areas that were formed by the glaciers. They're called pingus. Not Pingu, the little penguin, but pingus. Pingus are small lakes that were left behind after the Ice Age, and they're little tiny lakes. Ooh. And they really are fantastic for wildlife. There's one area in Norfolk that has got a lot of these little pingus, and that is in a little tiny village called Thompson. And this little area of just a protected area for wildlife has got, I can't remember off the top of my head whether I've got it written in the article, but it's got sort of hundreds of species that are in danger. Not only plants and birds, they've got, the insects, moths, butterflies, flies, things that people don't normally think about. You don't think about creepy crawlies being in danger, but there are a lot of dragonflies and butterflies and moths that are really in danger because they're losing all their habitat. Well, there's lots of areas in Breckland that are kept and preserved, and therefore we've got so many really internationally danger species.
That's really cool.
Really, really interesting for somebody who's into nature.
Mm-hmm.
But
I bet
there's also
salamanders.
We don't have many lizards. We have newts,
but
we don't have lizards. But we've also got the small towns. So if you want to sort of just go shopping, you can. But we've also got, as you said in your introduction, loads of medieval churches. We've got ruins of cathedrals. We've got ruins of castles. We've got abbeys. We've got priories. You've got something for everybody. You really have.
What do you, in your article you talk about having, I'm trying to find the name. Okay, before I get there, wait. Okay, so the Roman Road, Pedar's Way, which we talked about the Roman roads, is also in Breckland. But you say you've got a prehistoric Icknield Way?
Icknield Way, yes. Well, I don't know if you remember, but previously I've talked about Boudica or Boudicca, who was a lady who fought the Romans. Well, she was the leader of the Iceni tribe, and some people call it the Iceni. And this Icknield Way was, or is said, to date back to the time of the Iceni or the Iceni. That's why it's called the Icknield Way. And that predates the Romans. So that literally is a road that is thousands of years old. That was used way back, even before the Romans. So we have got roads that were used in prehistory, which when you think, it's amazing that these roads are still actually in use today. The Roman road, Pedar's Way, is partially in use as roads, where you can drive along, and a lot of them are still. A lot of the Pedar's Way itself is a footpath, so you can walk along it. So being able to walk along a road that's like 1,700 years old is pretty special. And then if you look in Thetford, you've got the Icknield Way, which even predates that. So it's pretty amazing.
It's ancient, and I love that. You've got the reserve, so there's the preservation and conservation happening. That's also important when it comes to, we want to protect our Mother Nature and the birds and all of, leaves and flowers and, plants and everything. But at the same time about, protecting this ancient history that you have. Is that set up that way too, so that it's protected and that we don't start jumping all over, castle mounds and things like that?
Well, most of the areas that I talk about are actually open to the public, and obviously people do walk all over them and they do, use them, but they are protected in that, you're not allowed to do any excavations on it, obviously, or you're not allowed to metal detect on it, but obviously some criminals do. If they're found doing it, they get put in prison, hopefully. But when you consider we've got so many sites of special interest, both historically and scientific interest, that it is really difficult to protect them all, because you can't have fences around all these areas. You can't have people on guard, because we've just got so many of them. So we just have to expect the local population to keep an eye out, and that is what local people do. If they see somebody doing something on a protected site, then they're more likely to call the police, or even go and have a quiet word themselves. And the farmers who farm the land are very protective of the land that they farm. So, if they've got an area that is protected within their farm, then they really do look after it. I mean, my son-in-law Bob, he's a farmer, and he does a lot of wild plant protected growing. So he has areas of his farm that, especially on the edges of fields, he very often grows specific plants that are good for birds. He often buys in seed, especially for wildflowers and things, to try and reintroduce them.
Oh, nice.
So farmers really do look after their land, because they realise that they are only looking after it for the future. Because Bob and his brother have inherited the farm from their grandfather. So, it's an ongoing thing, isn't it? They are protecting it the same as their granddad did. So that's what it's all about.
They understand, they need the pollinators.
They up there.
Yeah, they understand the nature and why they need the pollinators, the butterflies and bees and all that. So they're good protectors.
I was going to ask you, Glynn, when you take people on their tours, because you do everything so customized, and now you've got Visit Breckland, this whole new organization that you've spearheaded. What's your title for that? Are you the director, the chief tour guide?
Well, I just own it, so I suppose you can call me the CEO if you want to. I'm just the chief cook and bottle washer, so it doesn't really matter what you call me.
No, he's the chief scone eater. That's what he is.
Yeah.
The chief cheese scone. That's it. But do you get people coming over? Because I know you were talking about, your son-in-law Bob. Farmer Bob. We know Farmer Bob in the Sequoia region, which is our next destination on the show today. And he has people coming from all over the world. In fact, Tulare County had, because it's a huge agricultural area, coming from all over the world to learn different farming methods. Do you get anybody interested in that in England coming out to learn more about farming?
Well, we have got a really good farming college in the area, and they obviously teach people, and they do bring people in from all over the world. But I think what we get more of here are people who visit just through who they know. For instance, again, going back to Bob, I mean, he was a member of the local Young Farmers Club. So in the Young Farmers Club, they've got national and international memberships. So very often they would have visitors from anywhere else, and they would have a twin, like we've been trying to do with Springfield, with the Lincoln connection. The Young Farmers Clubs would have a twinning situation where they would bring in people from, shall we say, Germany or Scotland or anywhere else, and then they would spend a week or a couple of weeks with local farms and sort of learn about how they do things. So it's not really a set thing as such, but by twinning, and which is the whole idea about twinning. You learn about other people, and you learn how they do things, and you take things home with you, and you bring things over. So idea sharing is what it's all about. So I mean, I remember that Bob and Verity, when they got married, they had a couple of young men who came all dressed in kilts, the Scottish kilt. And these couple of young men were people who had come down on a swap, on a young farmer swap, and they'd sort of got on really well, and they were still in touch. So these sort of things are what goes on, and that is all about learning and sharing between different cultures, isn't it? Which is what it's all about. It's about sharing.
I love that. I love that, because when you also think about what's going on between America or Springfield, Kentucky, our friend Stephanie over there, who's, this is the family ancestry area region for the Lincolns, for, Tom Lincoln and Nancy Hanks, where they got married, and later out comes Abraham Lincoln, and he ruled the country in a really cool way. He was a cool dude. He really was.
He was.
And so they're over there, but that ties all the way back to Breckland, right? So we've got presidential history, but by the two towns between you and Springfield, it's that twinning, like you're saying, or we call it sister cities here.
Yes.
But those connections are going to run deep, because we're talking family history too.
We are. Yeah, I mean, the fact that Swanton Morley and Springfield are going to be sort of closely connected. I mean, I'm pretty certain that there will be people, once we actually look deeply into it, there will be people who are literally blood relations, because there has to be.
That's cool.
And that is one of the things that I will be looking into, to try and find a blood relation, because that will be really special. But apart from that, it is going to be all about sharing ideas, sharing things that people do in common. I mean, for instance, when I went and had a meeting with the chairman of Swanton Morley Parish Council, this was in the village hall that I met him, and in the main hall of the village hall, there were a group of young girls, I suppose teenagers, who were doing baton twirling. Well, that's very American, isn't it, baton twirling? And there's a group in Swanton Morley that does baton twirling, or whatever you'd like to call it. So, these sort of things are how much in common we have with people across the other side of the world. And that's without, business and family connections and church connections and everything. It's quite amazing what you can learn.
We can, between us and and folks doing this all over in the world, creating these relationships, these partnerships. That means that we can just, whatever's going on in the world that we may not like in regards to politics or whatever, and everybody has their thing, we can still get on with it. You know what I mean?
Well, exactly.
We need to keep moving on and discovering and communicating and learning about each other, and travel really does open us up to things we've never experienced before and finding similarities. I think that's the interesting thing of travel.
For me, it's all about getting it on a personal level, because once you've got it on a personal level, it automatically then goes into a national level without you actually realizing it. Because when I was 12, I think it was, at school, I started to have a French pen friend. So we had a twin or a sister city. So my little town where I went to school at Fakenham was twinned with a town in France called Olivet. And we did a twinning thing, and the schools twinned, and I went over to Olivet, and then my French pen friend came over here.
Cool.
And Patrick and I are still in touch. We still visit each other at least once a year. That is now nearly 50 years ago. So it's 48 years ago.
Wow.
I've just had my 60th, and So that's 48 years that Patrick and I have been friends. So it doesn't matter about Brexit. That doesn't count because Patrick and I are like brothers. So Brexit doesn't have any effect on us because we're brothers. In fact, this afternoon my mum rang and said, "Have you heard from Patrick? Because he's just rung me and left me a message." And his message said, "Hello, Mum, how are you?" Because he calls her Mum.
See,
because he's
that's
known her
awesome.
since he was 12.
Well, you know what? They can pen pals, as we call them, pen pals. So it could be dangerous. That's how my grandmother met her second husband.
Yes.
In Guernsey.
In Guernsey.
Yes.
They apparently, they were both widowed, and they started writing letters, and apparently, they got hot and steamy, and they couldn't keep the stamp on, so they met. The rest was history. So that's really funny. That's how we ended up in Guernsey in the Channel Islands when we left South Africa. We're on this little island, and you have puffins out there, and it's pretty. It's really, really pretty. I want to go back to Breckland too because
sorry, I've jumped off on a tangent.
No, but it's exactly what it is. We do good at that here. Going back to these founding fathers and these important people. Again, the drummer from Queen is from Norfolk. I'm just going to keep saying that every time you come on the show. We've got to look at what's going on with Queen being out there again, and they're awesome. But we were talking about politics and things, but now you have one of the guy who tried the gunpowder plotters. So he wasn't a gunpowder person himself, but he went after him.
He was the man who actually did try them. He was the judge.
The judge.
So we have not only do we have the president of the United States, but we've got Edward Cook, who tried the gunpowder plotters in 1605. So that's what when we always talk about Guy Fawkes. So there is a Norfolk connection to Parliament trying to be blown up. Please don't let me give you any ideas.
No, none of that, anybody. None of that.
No.
None of that.
But, we have really, really good connections with lots of these people. And talking about the founding fathers of America, I mean, in America, I would imagine Thomas Paine is quite a well-known person.
Yeah.
Because, he was one of the people who wrote some of the American Constitution, I believe. Well, he was born in Thetford, which is also in Breckland.
He also wrote Common Sense, which somebody should
did.
read.
I know. And
he did
every
write
time
Common Sense.
You love that. I get that newsletter all the time. Common Sense, that's it. And I remember the very first times we were talking on the shows, Glynn, years ago, and you kept saying, well, what we need is Common Sense Party. We need a Common Sense Party, and I think we still do. A universal one.
Universal. Thomas Paine was the man who wrote the book, and he came from Breckland. He was born in Thetford.
Wow. So
and the man who discovered Tutankhamun, he came from Swaffham, which is just up the road. That's in Breckland as well.
Wow.
Howard Carter. Although he was born in London, both of his parents came from Swaffham, and his grandparents lived in Swaffham, and he spent a lot of his childhood time in Swaffham, and they think that quite likely he got his love of Egyptology from visiting one of the big houses in the area with his father, who was an artist. And this big house, they collected Egyptology, and they think that's where Howard Carter got his interest of Egypt.
Wow.
And he came from Norfolk. So we have got a lot of really influential and important people from here.
The other thing too, you've been really posting some amazing photos up on our 1 hour walk you've been doing on Visit Breckland Facebook page, Norfolk Tours Facebook page. So I encourage people to go and look that up. But you've been doing these little videos, and we've been looking at all the different historic churches and castles and ruins, and it's really amazing. So thank you for posting in our hashtag 1 hour walk group, everybody on Facebook. Come join us, because it's really every time Glynn posts things on England, everybody's like, "Ooh, what's that? What's that?" And what I didn't understand was how much flint was being used on the exterior of the buildings. I didn't quite get it all until you started posting so much flint. So flint is a big deal.
Well, flint is in the fields. You know, if you walk across a Norfolk ploughed field with a wheelbarrow, which would be quite difficult, but if you did, in theory, you could fill it up in 10 minutes. You could fill a wheelbarrow up with flint. And obviously, when you're building a house, if you haven't got any money, you build it with flint. And, you know, because that's what's in the fields. And
okay.
you can build houses with flint. The only difficulty with flint is it is really difficult to build a stable corner because flint is so not uniform. So it's really difficult to build a square corner. So that's why in Norfolk and Suffolk especially, we've got a lot of round tower churches, because in the Saxon times, they would build a round tower of flint because you didn't need stone to build a corner. You know, it weren't really until the Normans came and brought with them a lot of building techniques and also stone from Normandy that they brought across country. Well, they brought by the rivers, obviously, up across the channel and then round the coast. So they imported a lot of proper stone, and then they could start to build square corners in their towers and in their castles. But until then, round towers were the way that people built churches, and we've even got a castle that's circular because it was easier to build because flint was plentiful.
You know, it's easier to clean too.
Sorry?
I said it's easier to clean when something's round instead of corners.
Yeah, don't get as many cobwebs.
Yes, it's very easy to clean, but that's not the main reason.
What you talk about Thetford Castle, and you talk about the Thetford, the mound. It's one of the highest. Is it mottes? What?
Yeah, MOTTE is a mott, because medieval castles generally, when they were brought over from Normandy, the castles weren't brought over, but the idea of building castles was brought over from Normandy, and they mainly built what's called a motte and bailey castle. So that basically is the sort of castle that you would build on the sea, at the seaside, where you would have a bucket full of sand being the castle, and then you'd sort of build a little enclosure around it. And that is basically what a motte and bailey castle is. You have a big mound surrounded by a moat, and then you have an area that is sort of surrounded by a big bank. And that really is the plan of a castle. So that's what Thetford is. Sorry?
I was going to see, we need to go to the beach with you and go build castles so we can have a castle making, lesson here, because it's fascinating. The other thing, too, you talk about the evidence of a mammoth butchery, not just a mammoth, but a mammoth butchery that you found that was in Linford, right? It was excavated.
Yeah, I mean, in just outside Thetford, there was, there still is. You can actually visit it. You can go underground to the only Neolithic flint mine that is open to the public in England, or in the UK, I believe. And parts of the sites obviously have been excavated, and they actually found mammoth bones that had cut marks on them. Because obviously when you're butchering meat, I know you're a vegetarian, but when you butcher meat, you end up generally cutting onto the bone, and that leaves marks where the knife blade, or in those days where the flint blade, cut into the bone. So these archaeological excavations actually found mammoth bones that still had cut marks on them, which proves that they were butchered. They were actually, the meat was taken off the bone.
Sounds messy.
That was really messy, but also extremely interesting to see that this was being done, well over a couple of 3,000 years ago.
Wow. I wonder how many people it took to bring down a mammoth.
I know. Like it's fascinating to me. You've got castles, and then you've got a mammoth underground. Here's these big fancy castles, and then look at the churches and the priories. I mean, these are like cathedrals. It's amazing.
Well,
and then Then you turn around and then you have thatched like cottages.
Yes.
Those are cute.
Yeah, I mean, like I say, there is something for everybody, because not only have we got these great big houses, we've got the castles, we've got the cathedral type buildings, we've got the priories. Well, we have got a ruined cathedral as well in Breckland, but we also have the little tiny cottages where people like me would have lived, because obviously we didn't live in castles. We lived in little tiny houses, and some of them still exist. So you can see what sort of houses people were living in 1500. We've got Bishop Bonner's cottage, for instance, has got a date on it of 1502.
Wow.
Whether that's the correct date, I'm not certain, but it really is, at least 400 years old.
Wow.
So you've got houses there that are 400 or 500 years old that you can go and see what they were like. And by having the thatched roofs, you can understand about thatchers, about how important it was to be able to thatch, because again, the same with the flint and the same with the timber framed houses. The materials to build a house were actually in your backyard. So when you were building a house, if you were going to build it with flint, you just needed a wheelbarrow. If you were going to build it with timber, you obviously needed something to cut the tree down with, but that was relatively easy to do. You would fill in the gaps between the timbers with wattle and daub, which again is just interwoven pieces of wood covered in mud and cow dung and things like that. And then you'd cover it with thatch, which basically is the straw that's left after the harvest. So, everything was basically being grown in the backyard.
I like that, though. I think that's cool, because you're connected to the land as well. There's a feeling of you're part of nature then. Well,
exactly. And also, that if anything needs repairing, you don't need to go to the shop.
Yeah, we like that too.
True.
We like that too.
You just go out in the backyard and cut another piece of wood.
See?
Or it's so easy to do. But I mean, when Bishop Bonner's cottages, they've just been recently rethatched, and when they took the old thatch off, Bob's dad is a botanist. Although he isn't a botanist by profession, he is a really knowledgeable man, having lived and worked in farming all of his life. And I took some of the straw that actually some of it still had the head of the grain on it, so I was able to take it to him and ask him what they were, and it turns out that a lot of it was oats. So it weren't even wheat or barley; it was oat straw that they were using at that time.
Wow!
So, it's quite amazing what you can find out.
When we come over to Breckland, where are we staying? I'm planning.
Well, there's quite a few choices, because if you like camping, there's plenty of campsites. Yes. If you want to stay in a lovely farmhouse bed and breakfast, so you wake up to the sound of geese and cattle, I can find a lovely farmhouse for you like that. There's another farmhouse that I know which is equally as beautiful, and that actually is in a 14th century building. So you'll be staying in a house that was built in the 1300s. They've got llamas in the backyard, so they're quite interesting. They're not local, but they're quite interesting. Or you can stay in a 5-star privately owned hotel that is a great big stately home that Churchill used to visit, because he used to visit. He used to visit one of his friends who lived in this great big house. So you've got a choice of everything.
Wigwams and yurts. Wigwams and yurts.
That as well. I mean,
I'm into that.
Yeah.
You know for a fact that I don't use any of these chain hotels, so you're not going to be ending up in a spit and cardboard hotel room that that looks exactly like a spit and cardboard hotel room in New York.
Yeah.
So you wake up and you think, where am I? You know, 'cause they're all the
I
same,
love that.
aren't they?
This is so. I really love how, we get this really cool visual of what Breckland is, and everyone, you can, Google Breckland, and I noticed on Instagram people are calling it the Brecks.
Yeah, the Brecks.
The Brecks.
Yes.
I saw that coming up like on hashtags and things. But it just seems like this amazing area, and you have like that one nature reserve I want to go to. You know how we have to come out and start documenting all of England's parks too.
On the map, I saw 3. It's in the middle of 3 national parks.
Exactly.
The Broads. Of course,
the Broads. We have to go see the Broads.
We have to say hi to the Broads. And Pensthorpe.
Oh, Pensthorpe is a wildlife park. It's in a river valley, and it's on the site of a deserted medieval village, actually, just outside Fakenham.
Wow!
And they have got so many different breeds of waterfowl. So you've got loads of ducks and geese, but also they've got a program of keeping some endangered birds and trying to breed them and release them back into the wild. They've got lots of owls. They've got loads of birds. They've got some beautiful wild gardens as well. Because of what a lot of these parks do now, they don't necessarily have a garden like your garden, if you've got a garden. That's not like my garden where the lawn's all manicured and you've got, flower beds and things. A lot of these park gardens, like Pensthorpe, are more wild gardens. So they really encourage the natural
the native.
Yeah. Yes. And also they like to keep it looking wild because it's good for the animals and for the birds and the insects and the ducks and everything. It's best if they don't cultivate it too regimentally.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the Shoshone Forest I was talking about. They have been able. I've read the study about them. They're talking about how to protect something, and when something is protected from the 1800s, actually, and you think about it, the practices they were using back then to protect have made it so they haven't lost one of the animal or plant species, not one. So all the originals are still there and still thriving. So it works.
It does work. It does work.
Awesome.
Mother Nature knows best. Glynn, it spring? Is it spring? I saw some little flowers that you were pretty flowers. So like the snowdrops and daffodils and everything coming up now? Yeah,
daffodils are coming out. Primroses, I've just seen my first primroses the other day on the side of the road. I've seen some cultivated primroses in Blickling Hall the other week, but these ones are wild primroses. So I'm seeing quite a lot of wildlife. We've had some really unusually warm weather just recently, and that seems to have brought everything on. And today we've had quite a lot of rain. So again, if it gets warm again after that lovely bit of rain we've just had, everything will just burst through again. And Bob was saying just now that he's doing another lot of drilling today, which sowing seeds. I don't know if you know what drilling is, but he's sowing some more crops at the moment. So he doesn't really want the rain at the moment. He wants it after that he's sown the crop.
Yeah, it's like you have to have this conversation with upstairs every time you do anything on a farm.
Well, the trouble is with farmers, and farmers are never happy.
Nothing ever goes according to plan. It's a really, really difficult, path to take in life, but much appreciated, especially those like Bob that, is taking care of, like doing it naturally and taking care of the land. I really appreciate that. Now, Glynn, I've got a special song for you.
Have you?
Yes, it's called Blue Sky Day because, I know it's raining, but because you're talking about Breckland, it's just like beautiful blue skies. It's about being happy, and this song it's one of my ultimate favorite songs because it's just happy, and it's a day to where we want everyone to be happy. They should be happy all the time. I wish that the world was happy all the time. So this is from the Madisons. So I wanted to know, is Madison an English name, or is that going to be Scottish, do you think?
It's not a name from history that I know of, so I don't know, to be honest with you.
Okay, and the other thing, real quick, is that I think we found our next English connection for you.
Good.
But he's pretty brutal, this dude. He is. I started digging into his history, and he scares me. Sir Francis Drake.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So
what have you found out about him?
Well, number one, I've got a really cool photo of a crazy sculpture, which is really, But anyway, there's that. But Sir Francis Drake was in one of the parks. He landed there up in Point Reyes in Northern California, just near where the Golden Gate Bridge is, and they even have they call Drake's Estero. It's like these lagoon areas on the coastal side, and so Point Reyes. Everyone's arguing about where he landed. Did he not? And there's like all that drama, so I can't even get into that. But he is from England, as far as I know, and he sailed around the world. He was.
Yes, I mean he is a well-known person, but I haven't really looked into him at all because, as far as I know, he doesn't come from Norfolk.
Well,
but I can definitely have a look.
Yeah, have a look. You never know. He may have set foot.
He might have done.
He might have.
Yeah, so that's.
He might have gone to the Broads.
Yeah, and then after that, we're going to go in towards Lincoln country, but we did find another connection to Abraham Lincoln. We'll be discussing this on Wednesday's show, everybody. We found, and who knew this? One of our national parks, and they're actually turning it into a historical park, so they're going to raise it from being a monument to a park. Is I can't even pronounce this. It is St. Gaudens National Historic Site. It's in New Hampshire, and Cornish, New Hampshire. Now, Cornish, that starts sounding kind of like your area.
Yeah.
And his name is Augustus St. Gaudens, turned out to be one of the most prolific and revered American sculptors of the 19th and earliest 20th centuries. And this is his home, his gardens, and his studios. And he is famous for doing all of Lincoln's sculptures.
Wow.
And doing the pennies with Lincoln on them. Who knew that?
Wow.
I was like, showing it to artist Victoria Chick, and then she went, look at this.
And he did. If you can find an American penny with Lincoln's head on it and the flip side has the olive leaves, save it because they're worth money, and the value of those and because there's not very many, but there's 2 olive leaves on the flip side. People should save those pennies because if you take them to a coin person, they will bargain with you.
I
and
bet
give
you Augustus did it.
Maybe.
See? So there we go.
It might be a tie.
It's like everywhere I turn, here's Lincoln again. Abraham Lincoln. He's just like he's trying to tell everybody this is how to do things.
He's in your pocket.
But
all you have to do is listen to him.
Yeah.
Yes, I think we should. I think we should do that. Glynn, it was always such a pleasure having you on the show, and I'm so excited. Nancy and I both are excited. I know Stephanie over in Springfield, Kentucky. Everybody, we're over here. We're like, yay, you've got the website up for Visit Breckland, so everyone go to visitbreckland.org.uk. I know you're going to be adding businesses to there, and people will be able to learn all about the region and start planning their vacations over. So it's such a wonderful thing you've done. So again, visit breckland.org.uk, but don't forget, Glynn will still be your tour guide. You can go to norfolk-tours.co.uk. No, norfolk-tours.co.uk. Did I get that right, Glynn?
Yes.
You did. You got it right in the end.
All right, it takes me a while. Everybody, again, Glynn's article is up on nationalparktraveling.com. You'll see him in our expert department, and you can read about Breckland and Norfolk and all these amazing places that are his backyard and hyacinth bouquets, too. But here it is, Blue Sky Day. Thanks so much, Glynn.
Thanks. Bye, girls.
Bye. You take care. Here it is, Blue Sky Day. Everybody, this is the Madisons, and it's from their latest album, Air on the Side of Love. You can keep up with them at madisonsmusic.com. Here it is, Blue Sky Day.
I could have been a writer, well, I could have been a